to pay the fee, I volunteered. So I was on there from like 12:30 until 11 on Friday night. But
Wow.
you know, it was interesting. All the interesting people that kind of came through, differently dressed and so forth. And then Saturday, I did an hour's worth of picking up around North Beach. For that volunteer, you get a little sandwich and a drink, so that's not bad. I've done that 3 weeks in a row.
That's pretty nice.
And then
That's pretty.
2 weeks, then the week before that, I volunteered on a Commission on Aging forum on what to do as you're getting older. You know, how to maintain connections.
Did
And
you
then two,
did you
two
offer? Did you tell everybody to come here every Monday night?
no, I haven't done that yet. I was kind of keeping you to myself after all these years, Danny.
Oh, greedy, greedy, Kent.
My personal love affair with Janny so far away.
That's hilarious. So I am so glad you guys are all here, and I'm like very excited for everyone to be here. And I hope that I'm just changing, making sure changing names. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Technic Han. And it was interesting to me as I sat here. You know, usually things come up as we're having, you know, as my day is going on, whether I
Right.
find a book on the side of the road or, uh, you know, what happens. But what happened today was I was in the middle of listening to a book, and this whole conversation about a Technic Han book came on my Audible, which I didn't even know I had, and was talking
Really?
about how important suffering and and like owning your space within suffering is, and you know, and understanding that without the feeling thought of your emotions, your body holds on to the pain. And I
Yeah.
was
Absolutely.
curious as I thought about that, is what the group would think about that. What do you guys, you know, just as I say that, what's hitting you? Does that make sense?
Well, one of my friends is an author named Gary Gatch, who wrote his own book around Tet and Han, and he's a follower of his. And let's see, he also teaches sort of a Tai Chi class around that as well. But he also had I think it was the Idiot's Guide to Buddhism that he wrote. But I also helped
Yeah,
years ago around Oakland. We had the walking meditation that Ted actually led when he came out here, when he was still alive.
yeah. Well, I find it interesting, and you know, I can't say that,
You're in a bad spot right now, Janny.
Yeah.
you know, Buddhism is not a religion. I think Buddhism is a real. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Give
better.
me a second. Okay, that's good. um, in this conversation, he talked about it, kind of like the beginning of, you can't have left without a right, and if you had left, you wouldn't know what left was if you didn't
Right.
have the right. And I find that a pretty profound, because I think I fight against this, and I don't know if any else of you fight against this in your metaphysical journey. Is like, how can you have both? So how can you have such the grays and the dualistic ideas of it's this or it's that, it's left or it's right? You can't have the experience of joy unless there's sadness, or joy unless there's grief. And if you can embrace your suffering, then it's not suffering.
I think there are in-betweens of it, but I do believe in balance. Like, don't see the light without the darkness. But
But
sometimes the
sometimes you have to,
darkness isn't black. It's
Remember, we talked vibration and frequency.
Mhm.
right. But sometimes you got to hit the one extreme in order to go the other way and then find the balance, because it's
Is
just
that
like
not?
grief. You know, when we're grieving over something, we can hit those depths and then decide we don't want to be there. And even though we don't want to forget the person or the event, how do we get to a sense of that balance again?
I
You know, there's not. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, Mary, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
I was just gonna say my approach to this is not exactly what you're saying, Janet, but I try to just accept life on life's terms. Like that's kind of it. And it's
And
not
be present, Mary,
I'm sorry?
and just stay present.
Stay present. Be the observer.
Right.
Recognize something that's traumatic or painful or whatever, but also just try to keep your heart open and have it just pass through, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
So
think
you're not denying it, but there is a real power and peace and just again just accepting life on life's terms. Like whatever happened happened and I can't change it. So
do you have a practice around that, Mary? Like, how do you just accept life on life terms? Because in Thich Nhat Hanh's world is sort of like the in-breath is moving into you're noticing your breath coming in and you're noticing your breath going out so that you can sit with whatever is happening. Do you have a different approach than that?
no, and breath work is actually part of it. So yes. So well, breath work, body awareness, I'm going to say more than breath work, perhaps.
Right.
So, again, I literally try to feel my heart and release any tension as I'm thinking about the event or the person or whatever. And and I'm not perfect at this and it doesn't work perfectly, but it helps a lot is all I'm saying. And this is things that I've learned from reading and so on. This is not my own invention here, but I just literally try to feel my heart relaxing and say to myself, my heart is open. I'm relaxed. I'm at peace with I trust the process of life. I'm at peace with life. Just I don't know. Sounds simplistic, but it really works, actually.
No, it's good, Mary.
A battery replaced.
Oh no, you're breaking up again. Hold on.
Okay. So Amanda, what did you had something to add to this as well?
I think it's the acceptance of the fact that there is light and dark, and that when I feel dark, I add light that puts me in that, gray. And I actually love gray. Okay. It's a neutral place. I love it there. But when grief hits me, and Janny, I've had more than my share.
Yep.
Then you know me. I go, what is the most wonderful thing about this that happened? And that puts me in that gray. It doesn't have to be black and white. I get to go where I want to.
Well, it's interesting to me because there feels a bit of like the Byron Katie work with this as well. What I'm hearing, is it true? Are you 100% sure it's true? Who are you if you believe it? Who are you if you don't? And then turn it around, right?
And who would you be without that belief?
Yeah, who would you be without it? Right, absolutely. So all of these are like are they phenomenal? It doesn't necessarily, but they all sound simplistic. But when you put that into a practice in your life, then you've actually. I can't say that I'm like I kind of pick and choose, and definitely which style is going to work. And I know that my backbone is Byron Katie. and how she works through really deep issues. But, you know, I think it's hard to understand in Earth, on like in this Earth plane, that we like to think like, well, I don't think we like to think about it this way, but there's a potential to think about problems like, why would, if there was a God, then why would any of this happen? If there's a God, then why would, why would there be cancer, or why would there be leukemia, or why would there be like joints that give out, or why? I think there's a desire to blame someone else or something else, rather than for us to culturally take responsibility for what's happening. Feel that pain. We don't want to feel that pain. We want to blame somebody else.
Right. And play the victim.
When you, like, yep, there's a lot of victim blaming that happens in this world for sure. Absolutely, for sure. There's also and I don't know if there's a right, or I don't think there's a right or wrong way you can life. That's for sure. I do think that it continually brings more things up to the surface to allow for a different kind of experience. And then as you learn one thing, then something else grows. And I'm just interested, Darlene, Megan, or Stacy, what are you guys thinking about what we're talking about? Do you want, is there more to add to it? Is there more to take away from it? Is there, like, how do you see things? And you too, Anne. If I didn't say Anne, I meant Anne too. I see you.
I just messaged Mary because what she said reminds me so much of what I've been taught, and it sounded so familiar and comforting. Because I've been taught to take now. Let me say this. I miss the mark all the time. But I have been taught to try to take a position of neutrality and not assign good and bad to things. And So I think this is like a twofold thing for me. There is a practice of what Mary was talking about, like taking action and doing breathing and taking steps like that. And then the other part is a practice of examining like my thoughts about things and challenging the way I like my own personal beliefs. Um, so um, and trying to remain neutral and not assign things to what's happening. So, because I'm very guilty of believing things are good and bad, and then that's then that's how I approach it. So.
I think that's really interesting. Darlene, what are you saying? You're saying you're behind us? I don't know if that's true. Do you want to come off mute? You stepped in. I think it's really interesting that and I'm you're, okay, Darlene's figured.
I did
Okay,
it.
Darlene's off mute. I'm interested to hear what you're having to say as well.
No, just that you guys, there's been several meetings I've missed, and I've tried to go back and watch on YouTube, and there's books that you reference and things about angels that I so much want to learn. So I feel like I'm kind of, stepping in the middle, and I'm trying to learn, trying to keep up with you guys.
So the great news that I want to make sure that I say here is that this is absolutely we are all absolutely learning from each other. There's nobody ahead and we're all in this together. So I really want to comfort you as much as possible around that to really let you know that yeah, no, don't compare yourself to anybody else, honey pie. Because that's not going to work either, right? Like, because that's also a way of you keeping yourself feeling separate from us. So you know what that means is then you'd be like, oh, well, next week I'm not going to join. You know what I mean?
Oh, but I am. I want to keep coming. This is, real interesting to me. But what I was saying in the chat was that I was listening to a school teacher talk recently, talking about how we need the struggle. Children need to struggle, which I thought was pretty interesting, to think, because we pat everybody on the back all the time. We can't always be winners. But she was saying, people we need it. So I don't know.
It's an interesting because I find myself, I don't know if you guys do this all the time, but I'm home. So I'm going to start trying to walk into my house and then change over to my computer. So
Bo is
I
going to be
appreciate
so
everybody's patience
excited.
with me. You what?
Bo is going to be so excited.
Oh yeah. He's already running in the backyard right now. I guess. So I find myself, and I always love to talk about myself in this space of trying to understand, so that like you guys understand that just because I'm a medium doesn't mean things work out. Doesn't mean that I have things figured out. Doesn't mean that, I don't just spill my drink all over the all over the place as I
You
try
mean
to
your
get
spirit
settled in
guides
and
aren't telling you
switch
what to
things
do,
over
Janny?
into my computer. But I don't ever, I'm glad you're here. Let me just say that. I'm super glad you're here, Darlene. And I'm glad that you're like, I'm going to keep coming back too. That's pretty phenomenal.
Well, I really look up to you. So I have much, and I'm glad to be with the group too. It's interesting, everybody's perspective. So
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think that we have like and the idea that you were taught exactly what Mary is talking about is pretty incredible. I mean, Anne, you're like, your heart is hurting. But to say that, your mama showed up in such ways that that super truly like supported you was pretty amazing. And it's no, by no mistake are you here, right?
So, Janny.
Yes, ma'am. It's
So,
hard for me to hear you. I'm trying to switch you over into my give me 1 second and I should be able to
okay.
Switch you into my computer, hopefully.
hang on, I gotta mute.
Can you guys tell that I just switched from my phone to my computer?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so much better, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your patience. I super, super appreciate it. Okay, what were you going to say, Amanda?
I was going to say, I don't think anybody should ever feel like they're behind with us because every week we're new.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, it's a different topic. And
Every week it's and not planned, right?
Right.
We sort of come up with what's actually happening right now and what are we doing, right? Like what are we talking about?
yeah. So Janny, I have a question about that actually.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like this, like I'm not really sure where or what your thoughts were when you presented. So I'm feeling like this tension of like personal experience with loss or whatever, and then more worldview. And I feel like you were maybe referring to worldview. And I'm wondering if that's a different process because I feel like it would be for me. Well, it is actually. Well, we don't need to get into that, but yes.
So, okay. So, it's interesting to me because I think I was thinking it in a personal view. Like, how do you manage in your experience? Like we have a real dualistic black and white society. And I do not like using, and working in, I mean black or white, I mean right or left. That's what I mean. I don't mean colors. And I mean vibration and frequency and not light and dark, because I really want you to be thinking and switching that sort of vernacular around yourself, because it changes linguistically how we speak and how we hold other people accountable for how they see First Nations and people of color. We really want to honor these experiences, and elevate them, really, because elevating is, I know if there's that diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we don't want to exclude, because I feel like the metaphysical world, and I hope I'm not getting too much off on a side. I could be getting off on a side, but that there's been so much. If you look around, people who are looking at the metaphysical, you do not see many people of color. It's been sort of like excluded out, and some of it is the language that has been chosen by the culture. So that's why I really strive hard to hit vibration and frequency, to kind of shift, or at least shift thinking, to be like, oh, well, I never really thought of that before. That's pretty interesting. So in the dualistic, and of course we have that whole idea of right and left, and I love, Amanda, that you're like, I'm all about the gray, because that's where everything
Yes.
is. There's no there's no there's no undoing, and there's a lot of less cognitive dissonance in the gray, right?
Yes.
Well, it's also, are we the spiritual being going through the human experience, and the human experience going through the human being going through the spiritual experience? And how do we maintain those various perspectives? Because the more we see on the outside, we should be growing more on the inside because of what we see and feel.
I don't think we need to separate whether it's a human experience or a spiritual one. I think we just need to accept the experience and find a way to adapt to that.
And navigate through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but when my whole mind's like, oh my gosh, are we a human? And because I've always like, no, we're a human animal having a spiritual experience, but we're also the human having the spiritual experience.
Right.
Right. We're in that gray matter.
And
Right.
So just hang out there. It's a good place.
Yeah, when I started these meetings, one of the reasons that I wanted to make sure that they were happening is that there was an inclusion, right? That everybody felt like there was a space that they were like afforded it to also learn about metaphysical things as we're having life happen in front of us, whether it be grief, whether it be dealing with illness, sickness, bodiness, right? Like but the idea that you can't, it's sort of like turning me on my ear a little bit as I'm sitting here yapping my head off. I'm sort of like thinking, I was thinking, like, so many times I say, like, I think our spirit comes to Earth because it's like, the Gemini at Cedar Point, or some whatever roller coaster is next to you that's your like uber famous one, right? Like, you come here to go down the experience, and then, but if you don't allow yourself to feel it, your body holds onto the experience. Your body
Exactly.
holds the trauma of whatever is coming, if you don't actually have the feeling of it and move through it.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was just thinking of, trying to articulate. I have, over the last year or two, maybe, I've realized that it is about releasing from the body more than it is thinking it through in your head or rationalizing, or yeah, I don't know. So an example I could use is someone suggested to me, and this works so well, it was like crazy, that rather than thinking back to a very traumatic event when I was actually a toddler. Um, and rather than doing any of the therapy stuff or trying to put it into context because I didn't have it then as an adult now or whatever. And not that I'm saying, I'm not bad mouthing therapy, but
Right.
rather than doing that, actually go to my 3-year-old self and comfort me.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm safe, tell me it's okay, tell me, all the stuff. And it was really powerful, actually.
Isn't that like there's a piece of that that is like being your own parent, right? Parenting yourself through your pain, parenting your
Absolutely.
yep, parenting
And
yourself
and
through
just sort of acknowledging, like, I'm sorry no one was there for you. I'm
yeah,
sorry I wasn't there for you, but I'm here for you now.
yeah. I do like that. I do really I do really like that. That's a pretty
But again, it felt like a body thing more than more than it was a feeling thing. It wasn't me trying to understand.
yeah, because you can't understand at 3, right? You can't
Yeah.
it's not that's not the thing that you can actually really kind of conquer.
Yeah.
Mm. It's interesting to me because there's this part that is also like because Kent, you had said it, and there was an idea of the spiritual part that you're learning in the body, and the body part learning the spiritual. So it's this combination. If there isn't like this free flow, but you never know what in this world, like in our experience, what somebody else is thinking or learning or understanding about what you're saying, doing, thinking, or how you're moving.
Right. And the
So,
important thing is that the only person that can evaluate what's going on with you is yourself.
yeah.
I have to look at the things that go around me as a way of something to trigger me as to what I'm learning about me, and not go into judgment about trying to judge how they behave or whatever they're doing. And that's the difficult part.
Yeah, I try and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself because does anybody follow my own like personal page on Facebook? Deborah, I think you might. Anybody at all? No?
I did for a while, but the algorithm kind of kicked you off. So I have to go back and look for you now.
Deborah, you're unmuted now. So do you
Yes, I follow you. Yes.
have you been seeing my little tussles?
Sometimes if I'm on Facebook enough, I was more impressed with the whole community graduation though.
Oh, I know, right? Oh, Darlene, she's gone? Ugh,
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna have to reach out to her. You know that. You know that, right? That's what's gonna happen. You fall off of here, I'm reaching back out to you. Yeah, it's been interesting because I know that Deborah, you had brought this up in one of your original ones. Is so what if like your political world isn't followed by what's going on in the world? Which I think is a really hard place. I find this a very hard place to be because, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I will stand by my opinion here. You cannot be spiritually bent and support a I'm going to say greedy administration. How about I say it that way?
It's a nice.
I will say it again. I do not think you can be of spiritual mind and support anything that has to do with greediness or taking away. And here is why. And I just want to make sure that I say this part because if you were truly in your spiritual sort of like working and you have this free flow between the human animal and the spirit, you 1,000,000% in the spirit world would give everybody and anybody everything you had. anything, whether it be money, whether it be furniture, whether it be clothes, because the only way for you to actually get it is for it to move through you. You have to give to people in order for it to come through, because then there is that piece of that, and that's part of like the idea of manifestation, right? Like it has to come through you. You have to be of the generous spirit to give to other people, so that you can then reap benefits, because then everybody has something, everybody's cared for. And in spirit world, you would do anything for any spirit that is walking this earth. And I think that's hard to see in this world, because we have been so culturally programmed and trained not to care too much, to keep walking by, to keep looking down, to not engage. I mean, there's this idea, and I just want to share it, this idea that, and it was something that I had seen, years ago. Maybe I had said this in one of our meetings. And the idea is that, when you went, this was somebody having some near-death experience, and when they were on the other side, they got to see that even that the person that was actually begging, or had begging on the side of the street, that had nothing,
Right.
was the higher soul and had more deep, oh, Darlene's back, deep, deep spiritual experiences and depth in their soul, because they came to help enlighten you. Like they came to this earth for that movement, to help you see that that giving to somebody was the right thing. Hi, Darlene. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, I figure out how to talk again.
Oh,
Hey, there's the microphone. Hello.
yay.
Sorry, we were having a minor crisis.
That's okay. Is everything all right?
Everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening.
Oh, that's all right. So that was and I forgot where I was going with the whole idea, but as like, it's hard to understand who your spiritual teachers are here,
Right.
but understanding that the way in manifesting, one, you give by being generous and of your heart and of your soul to people. And one of the ways you can do that is even just generously. When you meet people, you can meet them at the grocery store, walking down the street, the gym, the wherever, and I'm sending you peace, I'm sending you love, I'm sending you joy. The more that you're like seeing people and you're sending joy, happiness, peace. Darlene got kicked out and she's back. She's gonna be in and out all night. The more that you can send and I love this. I'm sending people oceans and waves and oceans and waves and oceans and waves of love. You can say
But
that.
the other thing on that, Janie, is without expecting anything in return.
Oh yeah, right, right. You don't give to to get it in return. And that's part of the tax loopholes, right? Like the idea of like,
Right.
I'm going to start a non-for-profit or whatever, just in very extreme examples of a lot of wealth, right? That's not
Exactly.
right. So that's a illumination of that. But I do really, I do think that when we show up for each other, we better each other's lives, we better each other's experience. Because when we show up and we have this moment of mindfulness or breath work or body work, we actually show up with compassion and empathy, which is where you want to be. Because as I've had these whole like Facebook tussles, which I know, Deborah, you have seen some of them because you are a friend of mine in there. You can't, and I'll say it again, you can't be for greediness and spiritual. I mean, you sure can be for greediness and religious, that's for sure. But you're not going to be on your spiritual path if you are only holding on to everything tightly. Ooh, that's
Agreed.
probably.
That's like kind of one of the first universal laws, right? So,
I mean, you would think it's a first universal law.
yeah.
But it seems, I would say we're still like in the dark ages, even though we have computers and we have AI and we have all this stuff. We have we are definitely more so in the dark ages than we are in the enlightenment era, which yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's also when life challenges us, that is usually what then leads us to the compassion and empathy because of what it is we're going through. Whether we have a child that's challenged, that leads us to help other children in like circumstances or parents in like circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty phenomenal way to think about it, because it goes right back into our beginning conversation of, do you have left without right? And do you know what right is if you don't have left?
Right.
I'm gonna I really, really want to believe and do believe actually that intrinsically people know what's right and wrong, and people know, and it's environment or circumstances or culture or whatever that is shutting them off from that. But it's there, which is the hopeful part.
So is that the part that gets reignited because you met the beggar on the side of the street that was trying
Yes.
to?
But it's always there. You know the right thing to do. If someone's hungry, you feed them.
Unless, yeah, so it could take you 50 years, 60, 70, maybe 10, whatever, how many ever years it takes you is what it takes for you. Or, I mean, let's kind of like lapse on lifetimes, however many lifetimes it takes for you to figure it out is what it's going to take.
I mean, I'm hopeful that everyone will figure it out within their lifetime. This current one.
This current life, I mean, it would be nice, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny because, Mary, I don't know if I hold out as much hope as you do for people to figure it out. I mean, I don't know. We could look at our the current, like whatever your current administration was, whether it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or 2025.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody had some kind of thing that they're
But your heart is talking to you, right?
yeah, it's
I
just
mean, I gotta believe that. Because spirit is in us all. We are all the divine. And so, I have to believe that people know. People know.
yeah, I think that trauma and things that could happen, bye Stacy. I think trauma could really it puts the halt on everything.
Well, something does,
Yeah.
but again, it's still there. The voice is still there. The knowing is still there. It's just hearing it again, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sometimes trauma helps us to actually understand. It's not always a block. Sometimes it's a blessing. I know that's hard to hear, but
No,
it's
that's
the
right. It
truth.
is. See, like I look at the current political scene as everything being shaken up. Prior administrations had an opportunity to, but they did not change anything at all, as long as nobody else got upset. Now, everybody gets triggered one way or the other, and you really have to look back at yourself and to say, we're like you brought up earlier, Janny, where's our personal responsibility in all this? Have we been pushing it off to someone else to try and do something, and we just keep silent? Or do we need to take a more active role? And what does that really look like on the local level, national level, and international level? And is it still coming from LOVE and our concern for our fellow man?
Interesting to me. It's interesting to me about the intersectionality of business and metaphysical. When it just like the foundational parts of business. Now, I'm not saying I do not at all think government is a business. It is not. It is not a business. And that's just period. I'm like, that's not even up for discussion. I'm talking more specifically about the intersectionality of people finding out what their why is. What is your why? Why do you move forward in your life? And you have incidental careers or experiences that happen, but your why can still move you forward no matter where you're at, whether or not you decide to go back to work, Deborah, right? Like you have this strong why on how you're moving in the world.
Yeah. I think also when you think about the circles you run in are so important, and they shape your perception and everything. So then when you enter a different circle, it's so foreign. Because I can't believe people think the way they do. So even in the schools, and I, spent most of my time in an early childhood center. So I worked with preschool through first graders, so 6-year-olds. And then I was assigned an interim administration position and had to go to the cabinet meetings and everything. And I was just mortified. I felt like I was a tennis match looking back and forth. And finally I said, y'all don't play nice. Like I come from preschool, kindergarten, and we're all nice to each other. Like I don't understand the dynamics of it. So I feel like that's kind of what's going on now. All of us nice, normal people are stunned by what's out there that you didn't really understand.
That's very true.
I don't think we have to understand it. Think that we have to work around it.
How do you propose that? Tell me how that works, Amanda.
Gosh dang it. I don't
Oh,
know. It
sorry.
just does. It just does.
It's just I know I think it's hard because I think like yeah, I don't know if we can apply how we move within our experiences out into the world, Mary. And I think I think that's what you were talking about, Mary, if I'm like not mistaken. I think I finally got it. It took me a minute, but I think I got the idea of like our own personal way that we move through our life and our experiences may not be what will move groups, cultures, lifelong friends along with us. Is that right, Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And it is super challenging.
Because
Well,
that's true. Go ahead, Darlene.
my problem is, I mean, I love to talk to people with different viewpoints and that are really enjoying these changes. If they could just explain to me why. But I find that no one can explain why they think what they think. I mean,
Well,
I have evidence and I have,
Right.
knowledge and I have stuff to back up my views, empirical, not, but these people don't. I can't, it's just like,
Why is why important and not just accepted that this is the way they feel?
Well,
well,
hang on a second. So
it-
this is really actually very, very, very important. This is so important because I want to like why is really important. And this is why I have to say this because my background is also in science and I'm rooted deeply in like in the scientific method. Like there has to be, it can't just be because of this video that I saw, this is the truth. So, and it has to be like cancer works this way because of these mechanisms. I know like sometimes it really annoys me in like the world of science. It's like this mechanism that happens in this, like what's the mechanism? What's the mechanism? But actually when they say mechanism, it's like, how does this actually work and why does it work? And when like it kind of it may seem ancillary explanation of why it's important is I'm gonna like use a science thing. So if you have a specific like protein, right? And you have a protein and it sits like this, and you have another sort of catalyst protein that can come in, it could come in and then take this, and then boom, everything starts happening going very fast. But if you don't have this, you have, and let's just say this is like, I don't know, something stupid like vitamin C. Vitamin C comes in and this is not the truth. Let me just say this. I'm just making this up on the fly. If this was vitamin C and it fits on here and then creates a whole cascade of you being able to breathe and live in life, right? Like, boom, it makes it happen fast. But if you don't have vitamin C, then this whole process goes really, really slow and you're fatigued. And we have to figure out, why is this person fatigued? Because they don't have this vitamin C. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why is so important, because if we don't understand the mechanisms of how things actually work, we can't support the work. So here's another great example from my life. And I just like work a lot with manufacturers, and I work with them all the time. And they don't know their why. They don't know why. They know they wanted to start this thing and they're good at making this, let's say, widget. They're good at making this widget, but their why they want to have this business or build a business is not there. And when you don't have a why, you don't have a business. So when you don't have a why, you can't just accept that I can make this widget. You can make this widget, you can make it, let's just say, like, without a why, you could create a business that stays like any barn, right? Every barn at one time had a thing it had to do. It's either house things, it works things, it held cows, it like held hay, all these. And then you go and you look and drive into the country and you see all barns in different arrays of disrepair. But at one time, they were all very, very important. And without having a why the barn is important, you could forget that you actually have to do things that will keep that barn up and moving forward, up and together. You forget the why you need to have the struts, or the why so if you don't understand your full why why you need something, why it's important to have a really good working democratic society, you could forget the internal pieces, and then it all goes the way of a barn in disrepair until it falls down. I don't know if that was a good explanation or not.
That makes sense. That makes
Amazing.
yeah.
Janie, you and I are going to have a separate discussion about the scientific method.
Oh yeah, scientific method's very, 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 very important.
Oh
And
yeah, no, I totally agree with you. But if you've been following what's been going on these last few years, you kind of wonder whose definition of what a scientific method is.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a different discussion, because I'm going to tell you that.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, if we're talking about NHI funding, then that's super important. Or if we're talking about like, I mean, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but
What I'm saying is that there's the intent for good science is out there, but when people have a different agenda on how to manipulate the science for their why, that's when we got a problem.
Oh, Lord, I work in academic medicine. Don't
Oops.
let's do it. Let me just mute my. I know Janny and I are on the same page. I'm gonna mute.
Actually
I
goes
hit a
back
hot button.
to- this actually goes back to the idea of like basic values and
That's
basic values and spiritual laws. And again, I cling to this hope that every single being on this planet actually knows deep down, has those values, knows what's right, knows
Right.
that we're all in it together. We are in this together.
Oh, not my sister. I'm sorry. Bad joke.
well,
Uh,
I think that's important because it's interesting because when I like work with these companies, they don't have a mission, they don't have a vision, they don't know what their values are, they don't understand their why. Like
Exactly.
it's like so it's so it is where it's where I'm marching to in the metaphysical is how to understand what your mission, your vision, your values are, and what does that actually mean for
The
your
dollar sign.
process and goal setting for the next 3 years, 5 years, 6 months. Like how can you actually take this and move it forward in a way that supports you?
Right. But a lot of times their one thing first is the dollar, not necessarily serving whatever purpose they think they had.
You're right.
But if they can come back to the intuitive spiritual side of things about making things better or improving, you know, our health or whatever it is, and they can stick to that and be in synchronicity with that, I think they would come out further ahead.
What are you doing out there? Sorry, my dog was like barking up a storm outside. I just heard him.
Oh, okay.
Um,
And you're going,
was your dog
why?
agreeing
Huh?
or disagreeing?
yeah, I hold out hope, Mary, that you're right. And I know that
it's very Pollyanna-ish. I know it is.
well, I want to say it could take many, many lifetimes.
Right.
I think it's a
Like-
beautiful thought.
But I want to put it out there, right? Say
Yep.
it.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's a
Speak it into
beautiful thought.
existence.
But I myself, when I think about how many people do wrong to each other,
Uh-huh.
there's some horrible stuff that happens out there in the world.
Yep.
And so I can't think everybody knows what's right and wrong. I wish that they did. I really do.
Or is it that they just don't care what's right and wrong? They care about, like he said, the dollar or themselves or whatever else their agenda is.
Well, of course it's themselves, but
Yeah.
if they know that right is right and wrong is wrong, why would they do the things that they do?
Well, but don't forget, we got to go back. If we're just going to do the current lifetime that they're in, it's how were they raised? How were they damaged? How did they perceive the way they were brought up?
And
Are they
culturally,
playing victim? Are they learning to say take responsibility for no
But
longer
then-
being a victim, that they no longer have control?
but there's
Or
also
they
the
have control, rather.
east-west
But
part.
there
Hang on
are
one second.
those that have been victims but choose to make other victims.
Exactly.
You know, it's interesting to me because I hear this, and this is very Western thinking, right? This is very Western idea, out for myself, which
Mhm.
Eastern is for the family and the unit and the community. Like if we could meld in the community but that's another conversation, but you know.
I
Yeah, but
appreciate
when we go into
Dr.
Eastern, Gianni, there's a lot of horrifying crimes and stuff that
Oh,
happen
yeah.
I'm sure too.
in the world too.
I'm
Like,
like,
we're not just because we're Western doesn't mean that we are the evils.
Oh, I'm
It-
not, I do not think that, but I do think there is that balance that you were talking about earlier between like the East and the West, or the, all the right and the left, or the gray, getting into that gray. How can we balance so that we're actually not just thinking about ourselves? Because I think that part of our, dis-ease in ourselves is we're always thinking about ourselves. How are we doing? How are we doing compared to this person or that person? Or how's my mediumship compared to that person? And how am I moving forward compared to that person? Does my butt look good enough as that person's, right? Like there's always this.
How's my butt?
So we always have that. So I think that there's a, in learning how to kind of take a step back. And it's interesting to me as I think about, like, as I've watched, and I've watched this very closely with near me, as I've seen very close people to me go through therapy, and how it's been like a cutting off of people that are close because I'm this or I'm that, and I'm moving forward, and it's about myself. So it could kind of be a runaway train then.
Yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for this conversation. I really don't talk about, the state of affairs,
Yeah.
of our country and the world, actually, um, but all connected to our country, except with like my kids on occasion, or
Hmm.
whatever. So, in other words, we're all of like mind.
Yeah.
And so I'm realizing how, which I knew around the election or whatever, but how fearful I am of the other camp, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm terrified. It's and I don't talk about it, and I don't think about it that much, other than
Yeah.
trying to do
Well,
that.
I appreciate you guys, and I'm terrified too.
I mean, the good news, and hopefully what we can do in having these conversations and putting them out into the world, is that it isn't just it's about stepping out of the fear and moving into some like stance that holds your space and holds your,
Love.
holds your
Yeah.
space and holds your love. So, but also a part of action, because fear holds you static and holds you prisoner, so
Yeah.
that you feel it not only in your body but also in your limbic system, which is your lizard brain, that you just like, you need to look at like a pop of water with glitter in there and glue, so you can kind of relax your brain a little bit to actually think. And if you haven't done that, do that. You put it like in a little pop bottle. You put water, glue, and any kind of glitter you want, and then you can just move it up and down, and then you have yourself with this little like relaxer that's just like
Like a little snow globe.
like a little snow globe that you just have at your desk or wherever you're at by your phone. You can like, and then move it, and it'd be totally perfect. So, does anybody else want to say anything? Tammy, I know you came late, and I'm sorry, and I know that
Okay, sorry about I'm late.
okay. Don't even worry about it. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everybody's here. And like, as always, I just want to be very cognizant that we have this hour, and I hope that you guys come back next week, because who knows what we're going to talk about, but it's always going to be exciting, and it's always
Right?
going to be like supporting you where you're at right now.
I appreciate all of you.
Oh, thank you,
Take
Darlene.
care. Stay safe. Be well till
Yes.
next week or next
Till
time.
next
I
time, everybody.
appreciate and
Okay.
enjoy
Bye-bye.
everyone as well.
Love you all.
Love you.
Love
Love
You
you.
guys too. Bye.
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 Anne,
Yes.
stay right here.